Because you are an HST subscriber, you are automatically part of our Advantage program, enabling you to score great deals on PreSonus gear from Alps Media.
Hey folks, this is Johnny, and welcome to another Songwriting Simplified. There we go. Hopefully everybody is doing well. We had a really good show yesterday with automation. Got a lot of good comments on it and a lot of good compliments on it. So I've got a nice little group of facts and examples where I can build a nice standalone video around it. So I'm really looking forward to getting that done. I do have a Studio One 6 series in the works, and things have been really, really delayed over here. And I don't know how much I can add to the information for Studio One 6 because there is so much awesome content out there already. I'm going to see if I can make it worth your time to watch what I actually have put together and everything. But it's going to be tough because the competition out there is very, very high as far as Studio One videos. So I'll see if I can provide something a little bit a little bit different than the other folks are doing. So I hope I can get that done soon. Let's see. So today we're going to be taking your questions and comments as far as songwriting goes, and also Studio One if you have any questions in regards to songwriting and things like that. And yes, for those of you that are really astute, I have a different camera angle tonight. I think this is a better camera angle when doing Songwriting Simplified so that Johnny and I are both looking at you because I'm so way off in the distance when I show my console and everything. I think you guys are pretty familiar with what I have here anyway, and it's not really to show off. It's just to kind of show how I operate while I'm doing the show. So I think I'll stick with this for a little while. I don't think I'm going to do the green screen again or anything like that. So, oh, do I have the wrong date in there? Yes, I threw this together so fast. Johnny actually woke me up. Let me actually edit that. Today is the 30th. There we go. So if you refresh your streams, thank you guys for keeping an eye on that. I actually used a template for the previous show, so just so that I could get this thing out there. But I have a different shirt on in this show, so that should help a little bit. All right, very cool. Let's see. We already have 14 people in here. We are talking Songwriting Simplified. And let me go to the chat area. Thank you guys that are in the I almost looked over there. And you know what? There's nobody over there. Thank you guys for keeping an eye on the chat. Please remember, keep pretty much as close to the subject as you possibly can. No comments, no cutting anybody down, and no political conversations in the chat because people are so easily offended these days. So if you guys could, just kind of keep it on the up and up. I really do appreciate it. So right now what I'm doing is I am opening up Skype, which I should have had opened already. But I keep wanting to look over there. Got to look here. There you guys are right there. Right in that little white light right there. I got my camera there, and I got the light ring around it. Yeah, come on, Tony. Don't do that. All right, so let's see. Johnny has a little coffee cup next to his name here in Skype. And let's see if I can give him a call. Johnny.
Hi. Hello. You can hear me.
Wow, there we go. Now you got the Christmas shirt on. I like it.
Yeah, kind of. You need to change your mic over, by the way.
Oh, Jesus. I hate the mic. I don't know why it keeps changing back by default, because it's not the default. Audio and video. And Studio 2.4. That should do it.
There we go. Perfect.
Much better. All right, so how are you, sir?
Hi, I'm okay. I'm a little bunged up with a cold, but I'm okay.
Oh, sorry about that. That explains the jacket. You got the
And
chills or something?
it's also below freezing here in Scotland now, so
Oh, yeah, it is out here, too. It's about 17 degrees out here now.
yeah, so it's time. And, wanting to keep heating bills down as much as possible.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense. Heating bills. Yes, they are crazy these days.
stick a jumper on.
It's okay. I'm in a basement, and I have so much equipment on in here that I don't need a heater down here. So I'm usually pretty good. All right, so we are actually doing an open Q&A here. So if you guys have any questions or comments or things that you would like us to try to help you figure out, this is the time to ask. And yes, you can ask us questions about Studio One and stuff like that. So let's see, Johnny Gibe, can you try to go to the pool and hit Command A to select all in the pool? When I did that, my Studio One crashed. I can definitely do that for you here. Let's go ahead. Let me go to the classroom real quick. Johnny, pardon me for just one moment.
Yep, no problem.
And let's see. Let's open up Studio One. So this will be interesting, and I am on a Mac, actually, so that works. So I just got to make sure that I have the right, that I hit the right key. Let's see. I need to turn on my keystrokes, make sure I'm actually hitting the right keys. Yes, so, I can actually go back to Johnny here really quick because my Studio One takes a little while to open because I've only got 8 gig of RAM on my wonderful little Mac here. So we'll actually see how that opens up and see if I can find. There we go. There's Johnny.
I've found actually if there's no cached data for Studio One when you start it up, it takes maybe about 30 or 40 seconds.
Yeah.
But if you've loaded it up, then shut down, then when you load it back up again, it's like about 5 seconds.
Oh, yeah. It's easier, because I just rebooted my computer. So when you start from scratch,
Yep.
It does take a while, especially if you have a lot of third-party plugins, if you've got Melodyne installed and things like that. So let's see. The spinning color wheel on a Mac reminds me of a disco cursor on the TRS-80.
TRS-80, I remember those.
Yes, I remember those. It does look like that, doesn't it? Oh, look at that. Looks like I'm actually up and in. Let's go back here. All right, so let's see. So this is from I'm going to pronounce his name wrong. I'm just going to call him SS Official. Just to keep it easy. Let's see here. So let's see. Let's open it.
Suraj.
What's that?
His name is Suraj.
Suraj.
There you go.
All right. I am going to open up a new song. And he says, try to go to the pool. Ooh, actually, I probably don't want a new song, do I?
Yeah, you want an existing song that's got
I
plenty.
want an existing song, and I can definitely do that. Now, even though it takes a while for Studio One to open, I notice that my songs don't have that same problem. The songs usually open pretty quickly.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see. So let me go.
If you've got a lot of virtual instruments, they still load up fairly quick.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's this, and here's the pool. All right. So let's see. So Command A. Let's see. Command A. Nope, that's not Command. This is Command. Command A. Nope, it does not crash. And this is the latest Studio One, the latest public release. So let's see. Let's do that again. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to play the song a little bit. Oh, great. My interface is locked up again, my mixer. All right, so I can't play anything. Hopefully nobody needs audio examples. This is a continuing problem I have with Studio One and my Studio Live. I have to restart because the mixer is on all the time. I rarely turn it off. So
Yeah, so it's losing connection.
yeah. So let's see here. So
just give it a quick power cycle. It should,
yeah.
right?
All right. So let's see. So let's try this again. Command A. Yeah. No, I'm not getting that problem, Siraj. So as you can see, all of the tracks in my pool are lit. Boy, for it to shut down, he says, and hit Command A to select all in the pool. When I did that, my Studio 1.6 crashes. Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
Not seeing that here. So that's a good example. Good example right there. Why do I have the hiccups now all of a sudden? I hate the hiccups. All right, there we go. Let's see. We have 14 people in the chat, and we have 9 likes. Thank you, guys. If you guys could, I'd really appreciate it if you would slap that like button, as it helps my standing with YouTube. Billy Morgan is here. He said good. He says good evening to everyone. God bless you and yours. Thank you for that, Billy. I appreciate that. If you guys could, at some point, please go to Patreon and see if you can help the channel out. Become a Patreon member, and you'll be able to see 3 tiers of 3 levels that you can give to help support the channel. Right now, support for that is we're kind of holding steady at $25. And for those of you that have asked, actually, just really quick before we go on further, the Pivot Share site is still up and running, and I got people that prefer that over Patreon. So I've decided to keep it up and continue updating Pivot Share. So for those of you that are over there at Pivot Share, I found out today that we actually have 20 members over there as well, paying $9.99 for those special things, and the levels that are in Patreon apply to those folks over on PivotShare. And since there is only one level over at PivotShare, you guys are open to the full Monty, as they say. So if you need help and support, you guys can kind of go ahead and go there and then email me for help and assistance with your Studio One. Siraj says, let's see, after that, can you try to copy external files? I'm sorry, I missed that. Oh, yeah, copying external files is simple. Unfortunately, I don't know that I have any, but I can give that a shot. Let's go back to Studio 1.6. Let's go to Song and say...
you can do that from the pool.
Oh, I can do that from the pool? Okay, right-click, copy external files.
Yep.
And I don't have any. Yes, so yes, I can still do that. So I haven't gotten crashes in Studio One for the longest time. If anything, my interface crashes. But never my Studio One. I can't remember the last time I got a Studio One crash that I didn't cause. So There you go. All right. So Siraj, let me know if you saw that. So I'm not getting any kind of those crashes. And this is the first time hearing of that too. So I can do the copy external files, and I can do the Command A, and no issues. Would have been something if we'd had actually seen that. All right, so let me go back to Skype, and Johnny, there he is, right there. All right, cool. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask. Very cool. So we have 14 people, 10 likes. Good to see everybody. And so far, no other questions in the chat. Kyle Jetruziak says, once you edit the title, it refreshes by itself about 10 seconds. Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know that. Let's see. John Edgar saying, is this the last day for the Studio 1.6 discount?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. So over on Wix, hello Wix, 4 people over on Wix. And they are, let's see, it's Rebecca, Tony, Leo, and Roger. Very cool. Good to see you guys. So Rebecca has a question about Studio One and Windows. Is the Mac the only way that I can use 2 interfaces at once natively? Yes. Yes, Studio One does not do two interfaces at once on a PC. It only does that on a Mac. Now you can use something like what is that? What is that workaround for Windows?
There's a couple, but Voice Meter is
Voice Meter, but there's the other one, the SEO
SEO
for All.
Yeah.
SEO for All is the other one. Thank you, Music to Motion.
And both of those are third-party products, so can't guarantee what kind of latency values you're going to get.
Yeah. SEO for All is a crapshoot. So if you're looking for good latency and using two interfaces, you might not get it. So let's see. Music to Motion says, any idea why Ozone 10 vintage tape is always blocked when Studio One V6 loads? Chances are it is because of either some conflict with the operating system or it has not been updated to where Studio One can see it. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. If you clear the block list as well and then you reboot Studio One, is it still popping it back into the block list?
Yeah.
If it's still doing that, then it's an issue with Ozone.
Yes, and it also could just be a simple reinstall. If you've got the installer or if you can get the latest installer.
It could just be a wonky install.
Yeah, definitely. Shorty Beard says, yeah, it would be wonky with two interfaces. They often have different latencies. Yeah, I've never tried that on my Mac, and I really should. And I have a feeling you would have to match the latencies and match the bit rate and everything, I would assume, in order for that to work. Keith Chadwick is here. He just says, evening. Good to see you, man. All right, I'll try to clear it, says Music to Motion. Yeah, keep in touch, too, Mike, and let us know what happens. All right, let's see. So Leo over on Wix is having trouble. Let me see. Let me read this ahead a little bit because he's using some big words and my eyes are not in focus yet. Johnny woke me up out of a dead sleep. And it's a good thing he did. Otherwise, I would have missed it. Let's see. All right. Let's see. So, all right. So, Leon's question is, when I'm writing, in my transition to chords, I like to try to transition from major to major to major. Sometimes I can't do that, and I'm having trouble with minor chords that I have to do to make the transition work, but I don't like when it makes it sad. Am I just missing something, or is there a way to go from major to major and have it work? That's an interesting question.
It is. Now,
are there limitations?
You have to bear in mind how keys work, because this is where you're going to run into why certain chords major don't sound so good. I'll give you an example. All right, so we know that chord 1. Just make sure that I'm unmuted. There we go. So chord 1 is major in a major key. And by design, chord 2 is minor. Chord 3 is also minor. Chord 4 is major. 5 is major. 6 is minor. 7 is this weird diminished kind of thing, which is kind of like a minor but extra dark. And then we're back to 1, which is major. Now, if I was to go 1 to chord 3 major, kind of sounds a little bit weird, and that's because we have this G sharp that doesn't belong in the key of C. Now, you can make that work by doing that, by putting that G sharp in the bass instead, or you can do this. Let's see. Make it into an augmented chord, and that takes you to minor. Now, here's the thing. When you're in a diatonic key system like a major-minor tonal system, you have to kind of respect that some chords are going to be major and some chords are going to be minor. You can break that rule sometimes, but you've got to have a reason for doing so, and kind of how you're going to make it work. So chord 1 to chord 3 can actually have quite a strident sound. And you hear these a lot, like in like big epic Cecil B. DeMille films. You'll hear this kind of thing going on, chord 1 to chord 3, but 3 being major. Because it has that strident, bold sound to it. Now, if that's what you're after, then by all means do that. But the important thing here that makes music work, even in a major key, is the constant contrast between major and minor. It's that tension and release that makes music make sense. So, for example, if I'm going to go and do chords 1, 6, 2, 5, and then back to 1 again, then chord 1 is C, which is major. Chord 6 is A minor. And then chord 2 is minor. But chord 5 is major. Now that makes sense, and you're still in a major key, so it's still bright sounding. So the focus of the music is still major. That's the context. So having a minor chord or two throughout your piece of music is what keeps it from having the right balance, right, and also sounding correct according to the key you're in. Right. So if I had to do all of that with major chords only, listen to how it sounds.
This will be interesting.
So C. Kind of doesn't sound too bad, because if I was to turn each one of those into a 7th chord, it kind of work. Because, you know, and jazz it up a little bit.
Sure. I love it when he does this.
And you've essentially got you know, a nice little 165 turnaround. Everything is dominant in a jazz context. It works just fine. But in most pop contexts, it's important to have that constant contrast between a major chord and a minor chord.
There we go. Yeah, Leon with the pig smiley face. He says, that's exactly what I needed to know. So it's not necessarily wrong to go to some minor chords. It can actually help the transition keep it major. Does that sound right?
Well, yeah, I mean, even let's reverse this and give the opposite point of view.
Oh.
I wasn't going to do this, but I will now, because I think it makes sense to do it.
Sure.
Let's say we do this in a minor key. All right, so let's go for A minor, because it has no sharps or flats,
sure.
So it's easy for everybody to get their minds around. So let's just do a quick, you know, our minds are still in kind of C major land, so let's get into A minor land. And now we're in the darkness that is A minor. You know, and this is the key, by the way, in which Lionel Richie sang "Hello, is it you I'm looking for?" So hold that kind of in your thought if you really want to, or don't. So let's do the same again. So let's kind of do so chord 1 in minor is in a minor key is going to be minor. Chord 2 is going to be diminished. 3 is major. 4 is minor. 5 should be, if you're dealing with the harmonic minor scale, is going to be major. And then 6 is diminished. And then 7 is really weird sounding. All right, it depends upon whether you're doing harmonic or melodic minor scales. Right. This is the thing, in minor there are 2 scales, whereas with major you've just got major scale. It's just, that's it. But in a minor, it's you either have the flat 7 or the natural 7. So that's kind of that one, and then there's this one. where chord 6 is F. All right, so let's deal with that one. So we've got no sharps, no flats, okay? Chord 4, chord 5, chord 3, we've temporarily gone to C major. And now we're back in A minor again. So you have that constant flux between major and minor, even in a minor key. The context is still minor. And then you finish on this funky A minor with a major 7.
Wow, jeez. Leon says, thank you. Those are the things I really needed to know. And 1,000 thank yous, Johnny Lipsham.
There we go.
All right, let's see. So let me take this question from Music to Motion. He says, I'm tempted to get a virtual drum kit. Do you have any thoughts on what I should get? I don't want to spend a lot for overkill, just enough to play back MIDI. And yes, I have some thoughts on this. Let me go to the classroom and let me bring this down. And I've posted links similar to this before. But, okay, so for the first drum kit here, this is an Amazon link. And this puppy here, this is a really good starter kit, and it's very simple. I actually owned a kit very similar to this a while back. And this one runs about $245. This is a Donor DED 100 electronic mesh drum kit for beginner and teenagers. This is really nice because it has the mesh heads and it has the rubber cymbals around the top that you can see here. And what those do is it keeps the kit quiet. It also comes with a beaterless kick pedal, so you just push it and it makes the kick sound. It doesn't necessarily need another pad. The trigger is actually in there, and then of course the pedal here is for the hi-hat open and close. It's real simple and pretty good for $245. And let me actually get that link in here first and do this. You guys get to see all my secrets now. There we go. That is the first one, and I'll see if I can get links and descriptions in there. The second one is this Elise's Turbo Mesh kit. Again, it's got the mesh pads. This is my favorite for $272 right here. This actually is not bad, and it plays really well. Same deal with the pedals. And this link is here, and I go here and here. Boom. You can actually go ahead and look for that there. The third one is a little bit more extravagant, but it is a killer kit. It really is. This one is another donor kit, and it's got they're not full-size pads, but it's got the actual hi-hat. Not the actual hi-hat. It's got a hi-hat pedal, all virtual inside, but it has an actual kick drum and beater and pedal. This one goes for about $350, and of course it's going to be a little bit different, a few bucks difference, I think, depending on if you're overseas or not, if you can even use those links. And the one for this is going to be here. These are kits that, while not exactly as the ones that I have experienced, they are very close, and ones that I've actually set up for some of my clients and things like that. Let's see if I can get this in here. There we go. This one is my favorite because this one doesn't have the big rings around it like this one does. So you don't have to worry about accidentally hitting the rim on this one, or I'm sorry, on this one like you do this one. So this, I think, is the better kit. It's still under $300, and the interfaces have MIDI out and usually a USB, and you just plug that into your computer, and you choose that when you set up an external device, which would be, you would set it up as a new keyboard, so it triggers like a keyboard. And there you go. Those are my suggestions. How's that, Mike?
Yeah, those are good.
Yeah, let me know what you guys think, and those are the 3 links that are there.
So if you've got the bucks for it, go for a Roland TD drum set.
Oh, yeah, that's what I have. Yeah, the Rolands are the best. They're the easiest to trigger if you're looking for authenticity in your drum playing. Shorty Beard says there is actually an updated version of the DED 200 kit on Donor's website. It's a little nicer. Okay, yeah, go check out the websites. All of those links will be in those Amazon links. And remember, if you purchase anything from any of those Amazon links, it goes to my Amazon affiliate account, and you will be donating a couple of bucks to the program. So please, if you can, order it from there. That would be very cool. Thank you for that. And another great question. Okay, Roland kits are under $1,000. Yes, there are a few that are, so I would definitely go ahead and do a search. Let me see here. Actually, maybe I can do a search here real quick. So if I do here and I say Roland, let's see. Oh, yeah, there is. Oh, look at that. There's a Roland. Oh, no, that's a Donor again. There's a Roland for $649, and like the Donner is either Donor or Donner. Donner from Blitzen.
Donner with the double ends.
Yeah, and here's a Roland kit. Here's the TD1 DMK. This is a new one. This one's $549. I mean, still a little bit expensive, but not bad. Not bad at all. There's $649 for that one there. So there you go. Very cool. Hopefully that works out for you, Mike. And I know Mike has new living arrangements moving here, closer to me here in Illinois. And hopefully that works for you. He says, I'll research. Just wanted some input from you since you are familiar with virtual kits. Yes, I've set up, I want to say dozens, but it's more than dozens. I have had people call me from just about everywhere saying, what's the best way to set this kit up? And of course, there are some kits that come with the old style MIDI, which you have to actually plug into an interface. And then there are others that actually come with USB. Either one will work. It's just that if you get one with the old style MIDI, you'll have to get some sort of MIDI converter if you don't have an interface with a MIDI input. Most people that watch the show are using some type of PreSonus interface, and most of the rack mount stuff has a MIDI connection or a way to get a MIDI connection into it. So old school MIDI. So yeah, so if you have any trouble, just give me a holler. I can help you get through that. Very cool. Let's see. So we now have 22 people in here, and we have 15 likes. Thank you, guys. Hit that like button. If you could, I would really appreciate it. Let me do something really quick for our good friend Louie over at Alps Media. If it starts. Come on, there you
go. HST Alps Media Advantage. Because you are an HST subscriber, you are automatically part of our Advantage program, enabling you to score great deals on PreSonus gear from Alps Media.
And also, Louis does all sorts of consulting, although I haven't heard from him in a while. He does all sorts of consulting for things like websites and other things like that. So he is your one-stop shop for all of this stuff. So definitely see him. All right, very cool. 21 people. And you know what? I got to figure out a way to get the likes here and view better. There we go. 18 likes. There you go. I've always got to move the thing over to see how many likes I got. All right, very cool. So if you guys have any other questions, I don't see any others in the chat. So I am going to go back to Wix and let's see. This is from Roger over on Wix. He said, okay, we've actually had this question before, but I don't mind answering it again. He says, I'm having issues with song length. Is the length of the song something that is important? Is it, does it? He said, is it, does it? Depend on the type of song. I've noticed that some artists from the early days wrote mostly short songs, and now songs are pretty much 3.5 minutes or longer. Is there a good way, or does it really matter? I'll let you take that first.
Okay. All right. One of the things to think about here is a little bit of historical context. Why is it that the traditional accepted standard length of a pop song is 3 minutes and 30 seconds?
Exactly.
There's a little bit of actual mechanical history to do with this.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Before the long playing record was invented at 33 1/3 RPM, you had 45s. If you remember 45s.
Oh, yeah.
Before that, you had even shorter records, which played at a faster speed, which I can't remember what it was. I think it was 72. And those you could only fit 2 minutes and 36.5 seconds of music on. So that was if you have any of those ancient 72 RPM, 78 RPM, thank you.
Hey.
I knew it was 70 something. If you have any of those 78s, then the amount of information for each song, it had to be really, really short. So for example, if you get like an old Charlie Parker record, for example, or an old Dizzy Gillespie record from the 1940s. Those are 78s. Certainly the first few records were 78s. So each tune was really, really short.
Right.
Only 2 minutes and 30 something seconds long each. But then, of course, after 1945, when the shellac ban was lifted because they needed shellac for making shells for the war, once the war was over, the shellac ban was lifted, and new technology had emerged where you could press bigger records that played slower, that meant you could get a lot more information on. So now you had long playing records, which meant tunes could last a lot longer. So they could be like 5 or 6 or 7 minutes long. And you would fit like maybe 4 or 5 of these 6 or 7 minute long tunes on. And of course, with progressive rock, this was perfect for progressive rock. It was perfect for classical music.
Oh, sure.
Because now you could fit an entire Mozart symphony onto one record. You didn't have to split it over like 3 or 4 records. It was on one record, and everybody was much, much happier.
Oh, yeah.
So now, objectively, with the way we produce music now, all of those limitations are gone.
Yes.
However, there has been some psychological study into how people listen to music and people's attention span and those kind of things. And cultural changes and how digital technology has influenced how we think and how fast the pace of life is now. So kind of attention spans are a wee bit shorter again. So we've gone from nice 6 or 7 minute long songs that people will listen to all the way through and get a lot of enjoyment out of, to kind of really short again. So we've gone back to the 3 minute song again.
Yes, we have.
That's the limit of people's attention. It's not necessarily their attention span, and it's not necessarily linked to intelligence. It's more kind of because the pace of life is that much faster. We want kind of satisfaction to be arrived at somewhat quicker.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting to note that in the days in the transition from 78 to 45s, even with 45s, they were able to extend some of the play records. I know that the Beatles' Hey Jude actually went almost a full 6 minutes on the original 45. But what you'll notice on some of those early 45s, for the ones that play longer, they might skip more. It's like the grooves are just a little bit thinner, and you'll also get more what's called intertrack distortion. Like at the very end of the song, you're going to hear a little bit more fragmentation of the song as the song, peters out. Also, in the 70s and 80s and a little bit of the 90s, before 45 started losing their luster, they were actually coming up with different versions for the 45s. I remember the song by Twilight Zone by Golden Earring had a whole guitar solo cut out of it for the 45. And I remember listening to the album, and I looked at the time, I go, 6 minutes and 15 seconds, and I go back to the single, and it's only 4:12. I'm like, what the heck is missing? So for a while, it was a marketing thing, where they would actually release the 45, and you would get the shorter version, and most of the radio stations would play the 45 version, and you would buy the album because you wanted, all the rest of the songs, and you would hear these parts in the song that you never heard before. It was like, wow, is that cool? And so for a while, it became a marketing thing. If you want the full version of this, it's like videos now on YouTube. If you want the full version of this video, or a video that won't be taken down by YouTube, you go to this site and things like that. And you guys can do stuff like that too. Release singles on something like Spotify that are a little bit different than the ones that you would get in a whole album purchase. It's actually quite a clever marketing thing. And, most people don't care. They just want to hear some of the song or part of the song or the best parts of the song. So, so consider that, too. That was a big thing they did with 45s. And, of course, the label on a record on a 33 and a third was LP. And because somebody just asked me here, Leon says, so LP stood for long play. And yes.
That's right.
And he just typed in there, he said, I was 45 years old when I learned that. My birthday is tomorrow. Okay, well, happy birthday, by the way, Leon. And yeah, some people just don't make that connection. 33 and a third LP. It's an LP. And it's just an LP. That's what they called records. But no, there's something behind that. It's for long play. And then eventually they started releasing remixes on LPs and stuff like that. I have a really cool remix of the song Easy Lover by Phil Collins. It's just like a bunch of instrumental parts that were inserted or whatever, just to make it like 8 minutes long. But who wants to listen to 8 minutes of the song Easy Lover? I'm not quite sure. It depends on your fan club, I guess. So, but you know what, Johnny, Chris DeBerg never released those extra long mixes, so you lucked out there.
Yeah. I did wonder why, and then I kind of thought, no, there's no need to wonder why, because I think I know the answer.
Yeah, it's like throwing a 10-foot rope in a 20-foot ditch. So there you go. All right, very cool. We have 24 people in here, and those 24 people have actually come up with 19 likes. Thank you guys so much for that. I do appreciate it. Okay, we got about 15 minutes left of this show, so let me actually go up the chat here. Let's see. Secret Squirrel.
The EP is the extended play, so
Yes.
it's kind of like a single plus.
Yes, exactly. Oh, and then, there were EPs the size of 45s. I've got a couple of those with 2 Beatles songs on each side.
Yep.
For a 45. That's not bad. Here, let's see. Secret Squirrel is talking to Mika. Secret Squirrel to us. He says, I am asking you, as I am new to OS, to the Mac OS, since the computer tools can be important to songwriting, do you know what the IAC MIDI driver is and use cases for employing it? I have never heard of an IAC MIDI. I don't know what that is, and I'm looking to see if somebody answered that. Mika says, my first serious studio job was lathing temp mixes for studio clients. Nice. I've always wanted to see how they make records and stuff like that. I don't see an answer, although Mika says here, let's see, the IAC driver allows MIDI to be communicated between your applications. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Like if you had a drum program that couldn't be used as a plugin, you could open up the program along with your DAW and use it that way. Secret Squirrel says, can it be used to group tools like a MIDI device through software tool, like the Rolly dashboard, as a simulated instrument into another piece of software? Oh boy, that's a good question. Yeah, that's getting into deeper MIDI than I am capable of understanding. That is for sure. I wish I had an answer for you, Secret Squirrel. I really don't know. And I'm looking to see if there's any more questions, and there isn't. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go to my emails here that I pulled up just in case. Let's see, email questions. Let's see. I have a comment from Mary Weiss over at Wix, and she says, this is to you, Johnny, actually. She says, I've made the transition from playing harp to playing piano. It's taken me about 4 years to really understand the piano like I do the harp, and I'm finding it very easy to write, more so on the piano. I am 72 years old, and I have been playing the harp since I was 11.
Wow.
And I wanted to thank you for the inspiration on playing the piano because I love all of your examples. Thanks again, from Mary.
That's very, very kind. Harp is a beautiful instrument when it's played really, really well.
Right, yeah. Well, she's been playing it since she was 11. She's already an angel. So that would be good.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends who are extremely adept at the harp, especially where you've got the pedals, so you can change the tunings.
Right.
And I've heard some extraordinary things being played on one of those harps with the pedals. Like, there are things I didn't think were possible on a harp, and
yeah,
this friend of mine is playing some amazing things. I mean, I thought, harps aren't really going to be good for jazz because you can't really bend the notes because
right.
you can't really bend the strings or anything like that, or in order to play in a different key or use chromatic tones, you have to press the pedals and all of that, and you could be like plucking the strings and effectively tap dancing just to kind of keep up with the chord changes, right? So I thought,
right, exactly.
No, it's not really going to be a thing. And then my friend Suzanne, she said, "Oh yeah, you can." I said, "Really?
Man.
All right then." So we played a couple of Herbie Hancock tunes, just piano and harp.
Really? Wow.
I was just like, "Oh, okay, so you can." And she just said, "Where there's a will, there's a way."
That sounds awesome. I do have to say, when my mom was in hospice, up on the floor were all of the people that were up there, up in hospice. Some were awake, some weren't. But there was this guy named Charlie, and he was the floor musician, and he had a mid-size harp on wheels that he would take, and it didn't charge for anything. He was actually paid by the hospital. That he would go into the rooms at the patient's family's request and play some music. Now, the interesting thing about this is the fact that he understood medical and breathing and things like that. And it was so cool when my mom was struggling with some of her breathing. She was she was conscious, but she couldn't communicate. He would play the music to her breathing rhythm. And you know what that did for her? It calmed her breathing. She started breathing to his tempo, which to me was mind-boggling. Because at that point, too, she hadn't eaten in a long time and her breathing was erratic and stuff. But when he went in there on the one, a couple of nights before she passed, he went in there for a half hour with us in there, me and my brother, actually. and he played to her breathing, and he got her to regulate her breathing for a short time. I thought it was amazing, but one of the things I took notice of musically was how he was using the harp and the two pedals on this little portable harp. It is amazing the key switches you could do. And since Mom was into disco music, he was playing some of the disco music, on the harp. And it was so fun to try to identify what songs he was playing, but it totally relaxed her. There's something about the sound of the harp that really, really relaxed her. And we always appreciated that. So when Mary mentioned the harp, that was the first thing that came to mind, because I thought it was a beautiful hour stretch there with her.
Well, there's a reason why in the Bible there's a story about King Solomon entering one of his ranting rages that he would enter into from time to time. And
sure,
King David was a young boy at the time, but he was also a phenomenal musician, and he was a harpist.
Oh,
and King Solomon knew that he was good. And whenever he went into one of these rages, he would call for David to come and play the harp, and the harp playing would calm him down.
Oh, really? I never knew that story.
So, there is a biblical precedence for
Yeah.
this. It's also a psychological precedence as well. For example, when somebody is having, a panic,
Yes.
one of the things, there are many things you can do medically to help somebody that's having a panic, but one of the things you can do is you can help slow their breathing down by breathing with them and getting them to breathe at your tempo.
Yes.
And then, getting them to breathe more deeply rather than shallow, because, when they breathe shallow and they breathe rapidly, they don't oxygenate their blood properly. And, it makes the whole panic thing just a lot worse. And so one of the things, as I say, you can do is you can slow their breathing down, just slow their tempo down. And you can do that through getting them to breathe with you, and also with some slow, soft, gentle music that's not aggressive.
One of the things that my mom used to do, I started having panic attacks about 5 or 6 years ago. Really don't know why, but I thought I was having a heart attack. And since my mom had 3 heart attacks by that time, I would call her thinking, okay, this is what I'm going through. Am I having a heart attack? Do I need it? And she would calm me down, and she would say, does this hurt? Does that hurt? And stuff like that. And she would actually breathe with me over the phone. So now, since she's passed, I haven't had any panic attacks. I guess that's actually good, but I'll always remember that. So Secret Squirrel actually says, so the therapist rigged an ADAT sync to your mom's breathing to help her rearrange the most crucial piece, her health. You know what? That's actually fun that you say that, because my mom was she was a tremendous musician, and believe it or not, she was a drummer. So beat and rhythm and stuff like that were always her forte, and she was an awesome singer. And we used to sing together when I was young and everything. But, I just thought that the harp was just such a perfect piece for her when she was going through what she was going through, and it really did work. Tony Cardona says, when my dad was dying from Alzheimer's, I used to play my classical guitar for him, and he would become so calm and actually remembered some of the songs I played him. I have heard that so much with Alzheimer's patients. Music is the key for a lot of those people to actually bring them down. Sometimes there's something called sundowning and stuff at night, where they start to panic and they start to remember things. That's what they're doing with my dad right now. They're actually putting him to bed at a particular time at night, because he would have sundowning with his Alzheimer's. But well, you know what they play? They play Elvis songs, the religious Elvis songs. For him, they'll actually put it on his little monitor in his room when he's going through one of these, like you were saying, one of these little attacks or whatever, and it calms him down. Music. Since I've been going through what I've been going through medically with my folks right now, music has been a key to a lot of this.
Music is incredibly
I
powerful.
know.
It really is incredibly powerful what it can do for people, especially like you say with Alzheimer's patients. Um, I know personally of a story where I was not directly involved in this, but
Right.
I was partially involved with it, but not entirely directly involved with it. There was a guy who was a World War II veteran, and during the war, he had a jazz band. He had been piano player in a in a in a band, and they played mostly swing stuff. But when they were overseas, when they were in France during the war, in combat, they became exposed to the music of Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie, and so they started immediately playing that music when they got back home. He was like in his 90s, late 90s,
Wow.
and was very much suffering from Alzheimer's in a big way. Didn't really know who he was or who his wife was, who his kids were, his grandkids. It just all of that was gone. So I was partially involved in connecting with his old bandmates who were still alive. So of
Oh,
the six of them,
wow.
there were four that were still alive. Two had been killed during the war, and the other four remaining survivors were still alive. And so with this organization that I was involved with, we managed to get him and his old bandmates that they had not seen each other since like 1955.
Oh, man.
We managed to get them together at his hospice, and we managed to get some instruments for them to play. And as soon as you sat him behind the piano and he was with his bandmates, it was like he came alive, and he could
Oh,
remember who they were. He could
man.
remember their names. He could remember pieces, and they sat and they played for an hour and a half.
Oh,
And
man.
he just called different tunes, and they all were able to just remember these tunes. And it was one of the best performances I've ever been to,
Oh, I
because
love
it was
stories like that.
so good. Not only was the musicianship really, really good between these old guys, but the interaction between them was amazing. It was like being back in the 40s with these guys. But as soon as his mates left the hospice, it's like he became a different character again. He went back to being this scared, frightened person that didn't know anything anymore and didn't even
Oh,
recognize himself or anything. It was, those 90 minutes were really, really precious. And you know, when they left, he went back to how he had been before.
oh, man.
He died sadly the next day,
Oh,
but it's
well,
just like, man, he got to spend 90 minutes with his best buddies on the planet making music.
that is, and you know what? It's a sad story, but it's a happy story
Yeah,
because that was probably all he needed to finally just let go.
it was
And
bittersweet, but it
oh,
was,
man, that's a great story. Just to be able to see someone in such mental disarray come alive for that short a time, but not just come alive, come back. My
yeah,
my grandmother, she was 94 years old, and we had to put her in a nursing home and stuff like that. And she was pretty much out of it and didn't know anybody and stuff. But when they wheeled her up to the piano, she could play that thing like she had never stopped playing the piano. And it
exactly.
was those moments that were really so nice to see. Yes, yes. Rebecca said, such great stories, but so dark. Okay, sorry about that, Rebecca. But I mean, these are important, I think, to understanding what music can do. And boy, I wish politics had more music in it. That would be really nice.
Politics had more jazz in it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, something, instead of being all jazzed up. Anyway, it is 7 o'clock here in Chicago. It is time for us to go. Johnny, thank you so much for not only some awesome stories, but for some great examples to the questions.
There are actually some really good questions. I'll be honest, at the start, I was just like, I'm not sure we're going to get any questions here,
Oh,
but we did.
yes.
And, you
Well,
know,
I have a slew of email questions that, some of these questions are a month old or whatever, but I have answered some of these directly, and I just decided to go back through them because some of them were really good. And one of them was directly to you from Mary, if you remember.
oh, cool. Let's start filtering some of those email questions into our shows then, so that we can.
Sure, absolutely. All right, Johnny, say goodbye to the folks as only Johnny Lipsham can.
Goodbye.
It doesn't get any simpler than that. All right, folks, say goodbye to Johnny. Wave goodbye. See you later, Johnny, and thanks again.
Cheers.
There we go. Oh, we cut him off in the middle of cheers. All right. So let's see. Let me go back to here. Thank you guys for coming in. Such great questions and a very, very entertaining chat. So if anybody has any other questions, send them to Johnny at hst-homestudiotrainer.com and we'll get your question in. Even if you're not here, I will let you guys know when we answered the questions. Very cool. So there we go. From Johnny Lipsham and myself, these are my last few words. Bye-bye.